Now we're going to learn a simple bind off. You remember that we started our knitting by casting on stitches. When we finish our knitting, we have to get these stitches off the needle, and we do it by binding off. So I'm going to turn my work, and I'm going to position myself exactly like I do to knit. And indeed, I'm going to knit this first stitch. So in under the front leg, wrap my yarn counterclockwise, pull the loop back through, and slip it off. Okay, just like you're doing a knit stitch. Okay, now we're going to knit the second stitch. Just the same. End under the front leg, wrap your yarn counterclockwise, pull it back through, and slip it off. Now here's where the binding off part comes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this stitch and I'm going to pull it over this stitch using my left needle. So I insert my needle in under the stitch, and then, and you may need to use your fingers to hold, and your needle almost like you're knitting, to pull this loop through and that stitch over. And now we have bound off one stitch. Okay, so to continue going, I knit my next stitch. In, around, through, and off. And then insert my needle from the opposite direction under that front leg and pull it over the stitch next to it, and then slide it off. And now we have bound off 2 stitches. I'm going to go ahead and work my way down the whole line. Now when you get into more complicated projects, there'll be times when you just bind off some of your stitches and you keep going with the other ones. But for now, once we get ready to bind off, we're going to bind them all off. I can't tell you how excited I was to see somebody actually using my kit to learn how to knit. It was a thrilling experience to watch that. Okay, I'm just about to knit my last stitch. I'm going to do the same thing. Insert my needle on the opposite side. Pull that loop through. It's sometimes a little tough. You have to make it go. Okay. So we got the last stitch here. And what we can do is we're going to pull it up like this. And I just realized I don't have scissors over here, so I'll be right back. Scissors are the one thing that you need that I actually didn't include in the kit. A lot of times knitters will have a pair of scissors like this. You can Got my little tapestry needles stuck in the case too. Okay, but you don't have to have a pair of scissors like this. Literally any scissors will do for t-shirt yarn that will cut. Okay, so we're going to come in here and we're going to cut it. Notice when I cut it, I'm going to leave a tail of at least 3 to 4 inches. So I cut it, and then I take my working yarn and I pull to pull the end out. Okay, I don't want to pull both ends out, so let me see which one's going. Okay, I want to pull the cut end out. That will leave my working, the tail left, and the stitches will not unravel. In just a moment, I'm going to go ahead and weave that end in for you so you can see how that's done. I just noticed something that I want to show you. T-shirt yarn is, you're going to come across places where it's been tied together or it's been sewn together, and depending on your project, you may be able to knit that right in. Or if I had come along to that before I was ready, what I would have done is knitted the row. Say it came up about here, I would have gone ahead and cut it and then started back with a clean edge going back the other way, and then I would have just had a couple of extra ends to weave in, like I'm fixing to show you how to do. If you thought the word fixing was weird, that probably means you didn't grow up in the South. I think it's a Southern word. I've lived different places, and people up north would look at me strange when I said I was fixing to do something. Okay, now here is something that's a bit of a challenge with t-shirt yarn, and that is getting the yarn into your tapestry needle. I did my best to get you tapestry needles that had as big an eye as possible. Regular yarn, what I do is I pull it up between my fingers like this and pinch it, and I'm able just to squish it right through the eye of the needle. As you can see, that doesn't work very well with t-shirt yarn. So what I normally do is, looking at the end, I take one corner or the other and squish it together, and then get that corner pushed through the eye. And then once you get a corner through, you can pull the rest of it. Now this big bulky gray yarn gets a little messy with this. The other ones are a bit easier. The yarn that's not quite as bulky, it's a little bit easier to do that with. But I might as well show you on the hard one. I also put a couple of needle threaders in your goodie bag. You might try those to see if they work, but the way I just showed you is probably what's going to work the best. There is no one exact right way to weave an end in. You'll want to look at your project and kind of see what makes sense, where you're going to be able to weave the yarn in so that it is very stable, but it won't mess up the look of your project. With this t-shirt yarn, a lot of times what I do is weave it down the side. So first I'm going to take this yarn and I'm going to pull it through right here, because that will make my end nice and square. And then I'm going to push it through this knot, because that's going to hold that yarn tightly. It's going to take me a little bit to, pull it through there. And then on this particular piece, I think I'm going to continue that. It works pretty well, and it's not going to change how my project looks, and it's going to hold it pretty tight. On one of the project videos, I will show you weaving in again, and I may do it, a different way, because you can also go and follow your knit stitches is another way to weave in. But however you do it, you just want to continue weaving it in until you know it's good and solid, and then you can snip it off. I think I'm going to try to get one more. What I'm going to do is go through a couple at the same time so that most of my end will be caught up. Once you pull it through, sometimes it pulls it really tight. You can kind of take your material and stretch it so that end won't be too tight. And then I can just snip this off right here. And that's going to be a very secure end of my project.